Hey everyone, happy Monday. For some people, it's a mindful Monday. For others, it's a motivational Monday. And if you are here with me, you are on another episode of the Other Side podcast. And I just want to say hello. Thank you for joining again. If this is your first time with me on the Other Side podcast, go ahead and put a 1 in the comments. That way I can shout you out and say hello. If this is not your first time, if you have been here before, please go ahead and put a 2 in the comments. I love to see you as well and shout you out and say thank you for coming back. Hey Nettie, hi Maya. So I'm really excited because what we typically do together is I bring up different topics, questions that have come to my attention that are all on this idea of the journey of mental health, right? What can we think about? How can we think about things? What can we do to help us get on this other side of the mental health journey that we're all on? That is my come from. That is what I'm all excited and pumped about to talk with you guys each week. And if you haven't already, please do me a huge favor. It's absolutely free. All you have to do is subscribe. Hit that subscribe button right now. That way you'll catch the next one for sure. And certainly hit the notification bell so that way you can be notified the next time an episode comes on and you don't miss an episode. And if you like what you see, of course, we love all the likes. But all of these things help the algorithm within YouTube know that what we're talking about is important, and then it shares it to other people. Of course, if you share this information with other people, would love for you to do that as well. It is just being kind. It's spreading the good news of what can we do to help each other grow, learn, and just be better people on this journey that we call life. So let's get into today's topic. I'm really excited. Today we're going to be talking about essentially guilt. Many of you have heard me talk about shame, and I think most people don't know what shame is, but they do. They feel like they understand guilt and where that comes from in terms and how that has to do with self-forgiveness. I think self-forgiveness is really hard for a lot of people and totally get it. And I think the reason for that is because people are stuck in guilt and shame-based thinking. So really quickly, the difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is, I'm sorry I did something bad. Shame is, I'm sorry I am bad. Many of you have heard me say what I actually prefer to say, which is guilt is, I'm sorry I made a mistake. Shame is, I'm sorry I am a mistake. Huge difference, right? One is identifying an action that you did. The other one is identifying a being. It's identifying yourself as the thing, right? So I wanted to talk about this and why it's so important to work through that, so that way you can work towards self-forgiveness, because I think that's something that's really, really important as we go through this life. None of us are going to do anything perfectly, right? We're going to make mistakes. And so it's really important to help us navigate how we can go about doing this. That way we don't get stuck in the guilt and the shame. So why is it important? Let's talk about that. So why is forgiving yourself essential for healing and for growth? Number one, it helps break the cycle of self-punishment. When you're holding on to guilt, oh man, I did this thing, it was so bad. Even more so when you hold on to shame, I am bad, I am this horrible thing, I'm not enough, I'm a mistake, something's wrong with me, I'm unlovable, all of these things. That negative type of self-talk, it prevents you from actually growing. If you constantly believe that you are bad and something's wrong with you, you're not going to move forward and do something different because you think that you're bad. A lot of times when people are stuck in this type of shame-based thinking, they self-sabotage, and it's because they don't believe that they're worth anything good. So why bother change? There's no point. And even if they did do something different in order to change, they'll self-sabotage it because they don't believe they're worth anything good, right? So holding on to the guilt, holding on to that shame-based thinking doesn't create personal growth. And I would say that when you forgive yourself, when you're like, I did this thing, but it was the best that I could do in the time that I had. Hindsight is always 2020. But what can I learn from this? How can I move forward? And then forgiving yourself, I was just doing the best that I could. It wasn't the best ultimately, but I was trying. That lets you rewrite your inner narrative so that way you can do something differently. Okay, so the second reason why it's good to forgive yourself, it creates a stronger emotional resilience within yourself. So when you forgive yourself, you build this emotional capacity to face challenges with compassion instead of self-criticism. Again, if you're thinking, I am unworthy, I am unlovable, I am not enough, see, I'm a failure, all those things, that's shame-based thinking because you're identifying with the thing. Again, if you're looking at guilt, oh, I did this bad thing, it didn't work out, that thing that I tried to do, it failed. But let's see, how can I work to improve myself to do better, right? You build this like, okay, I faced a challenge and didn't go the way that I expected, but like you can bounce back from it. You can create this resiliency. It creates this strength. So it's really important to look at yourself with compassion instead of the self-criticism, because that's what helps with the emotional resilience. Number 3, why it's really good to forgive yourself is it fosters better relationships. Um, when you forgive yourself, it begins to be much easier for you to forgive others. A lot of times when you're self-critical, you're actually really self-critical of others as well, because you're probably harder on yourself than you are even on other people. So self-forgiveness can actually, it can improve how you relate to others by eliminating this like guilt-driven behavior. And a lot of times the guilt-driven behavior results in withdrawal. You're really defensive, right? Because you're constantly thinking like you're trying to defend yourself, right? You're trying to make yourself look better than the thing that you did, right? And so if you move away from that, if you're like, you know what, I made a mistake, that means that person can make a mistake too. None of us are perfect. By you forgiving yourself, now you're able to relate to others in a more forgiving way. And that is going to foster much better relationships. So again, 3 reasons for why forgiving yourself is really essential. And it's 1, it breaks the cycle of self-punishment, right? So this way it helps you grow. And a lot of times it prevents you from growing, but this way you're going to help yourself grow. The second reason why forgiving yourself is essential is it strengthens your emotional resilience, right? We want to help each other bounce back from this. And the third is it fosters better relationships. And who doesn't want better relationships? We've talked about this over and over and over again. Hey, Sonia. And it is so important. Relationships in our lives are so important. Everybody thinks that they can do it alone, but you can't, right? You really can't. And anything amazing that has ever happened or that was ever accomplished in this world many lifetimes ago up until today was accomplished with more than one person. You can't do it by yourself. And humans need relationship. We need friends, we need family, we need our significant others. It is a way to maintain our mental health. So here are some surprising ways that you may not even realize that guilt could be holding you back, or even the shame-based thinking could be holding you back. 1, it stalls your personal progress, right? If you're focused on the past, if you're focused on this identity of not being good enough, it prevents you from moving forward fully. And that, it means you're going to miss out on opportunities. You're going to miss out on accomplishing your goals and your dreams. And let me just tell you, that is one of my biggest, I don't know, it's not even a pet peeve. It's just like the reason why I'm so passionate about this is because I know that this is the thing that kills so many dreams and passions and goals that people have, is because they're stuck in this. You're constantly looking at the past and you're not recognizing the good in you that you do have to do the accomplished goals. Because again, if you're stuck in I'm not good enough, I'm unworthy, you're never going to go for the goal. You're never going to go for the dream because you don't think you're good enough. You think you're unworthy. You're going to self-sabotage. So the second way that it could be impacting your life in a bad way is that it affects decision making. So you could end up analysis paralysis, make decisions making decisions, the fear, I'm not good enough, right? Facing them like, you know what, I'm gonna try. I don't know if it's gonna work. Pursue excellence. Hesitant because you back in the world, make any of the what they can learn from it, and then it should decide. Because me personally have impact. You're in a lot of stress and really big on the name it to team it and things like that. And that's a big deal. Has to responsibility. Talks about and essentially radical responsibility. It's all about like changing your life. When you own up to your mistakes and own up to it, not in a way that like you now identify with your mistakes. So then you become, I'm a failure, I'm unworthy. It's not that, right? So it's how do you own your mistakes without going into shame? And that is just, oh, that was me. I made that decision. It didn't work out. Okay, what can we do? And how can we grow from this? How can we change? So it's really important to accept responsibility while you understand that it's part of your growth and it's not your identity. Remember, identity leads to shame-based thinking. So that's number one, taking active responsibility, acknowledging it. There's a sense of power in that, almost a sense of freedom, right? Too, because you're not like, you're not waiting for others to point the fingers at you. You're not waiting for others to judge you. You're owning it. You're like, no, I did the thing. I did it and I got to do better. It's freeing. It's empowering. So definitely step number one is acknowledging and accepting responsibility. Number two would be challenge a negative belief. So when you do feel like you're leaning into shame and you start thinking those things like, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm a failure, start to change those. You guys, many of you know my story. Affirmations have been difficult for me, to say the least. And that led to me even writing a book and figuring out all this information that I now know about shame-based thinking. What's really interesting about the affirmations I feel like are more likely to work are things like, instead of thinking I'm not good enough and then changing it to I am worthy, I am amazing, I am beautiful, the affirmation could be I'm learning and improving every day. That way you don't feel like you're telling a lie. This feels like something that you can actually get behind, right? Yeah, I'm learning and improving every day. That's real, right? And you can lean into that. You can embrace that. And that's really important. So challenging the negative beliefs that you start to have and changing them with positive affirmations that you can get behind, that you can really believe in, are a really great way to help with releasing the guilt. The next is engaging in self-healing practices. So this includes journaling. I am a big fan of journaling. If you don't already have my friend, Ashley Major, she wrote this book called Get to Know Yourself in 30 Days. Please go out and get it. It's basically a journal. There's lots of pages where she allows for you to journal. There's another journal that I also recommend that has to do with shadow work, which is basically just looking at your inner child and the different traumas that you've gone through and how they're manifesting now as an adult. Journaling is huge. Meditation is great. I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's always focusing on your meditation should focus on your future self. And then therapy. Please consider therapy. More people should be seeing a therapist than I think there currently are. And I am a huge advocate for going to therapy. So I'll say this as well. One of the things I believe also helps with self-healing, especially if you feel like you're really grounded in shame-based thinking. You're like, how can I really get out of this? I've gone over this before, but it's my personal step-by-step system. It's called A Life. The A stands for awareness. We're getting a lot of awareness today. The L stands for looking within. So where did those messages come from? The shadow work, the inner child work. Where did you receive the messages that I'm not worthy, I'm unlovable, I'm not beautiful, I'm not good enough, I'm a failure, I'm a mistake? Where did that come from? L is for look within. I is for identifying your triggers. So what are the things now as an adult that cause you to spiral? Maybe it is you tried something and it didn't work out. Maybe you said something that hurt somebody's feelings and now you're feeling really guilty about it, right? Like, what are the things that trigger you? And then F is finding your good mirrors. So these are the people in your life who can hold a mirror up to you and remind you of the good person you are. You are an amazing person. You are beautiful. You are totally worthy. You did something that just didn't work out. So how can we learn from that? How can we grow from that? And you're totally fine. Like, what you did is normal also, by the way. It's not that you're a freak of nature. It's certainly not that you're broken or anything like that. And E stands for empathy. So shame-based thinking. Shame cannot exist where empathy persists. Empathy is a kryptonite to shame. The only way that you can receive empathy, though, is to have the courage to share who you are from your heart and to share with other people. You want to share with who you are from the heart with your good mirrors, right? People who will remind you who you are. Of course, you're not going to necessarily share with everyone. People always joke, they're like, so I got to write a book like you did? No, you don't have to do that. Just find your tribe. And it doesn't have to be, 5, 10 people. It can be one person, maybe two. But at least having that one person that you can talk to about what's been going on for you, who can provide empathy. It's really, really huge. So a life, awareness, looking within, identifying your triggers, finding your good mirrors, and empathy. It's going to help you every single time with your shame-based thinking. And it's a journey, not a destination. So it's something that you're going to have to practice all the time, just like you're always going to have to practice acknowledgement and responsibility, challenging your negative beliefs. You can do that with a life, and engaging in self-healing practices like journaling, meditation, and therapy, and the life. All right. So if this has been really valuable for you, please put a V in the chat so I know that it's providing value. Again, if this is your first time here, awesome. Hello. If you're watching the recording, put an R in the comments so I know that you're watching the recording. I will definitely shout you out as well. And if you're catching us just at the end, here is a quick snapshot of what we talked about today. Today we were talking about self-forgiveness and why it's so important. So the first thing that we covered is why forgiving yourself is essential to healing and to growth. Number one, it's because it breaks the cycle of self-punishment. Number two is it strengthens emotional resilience. And number three, it fosters better relationships. I forget that when I do this, the balloons pop up. Note to self if you have a MacBook. And then here are some 3 surprising ways that holding on to guilt can actually hold you back. Number one, it stalls your personal growth. Number two, it affects your decision-making. And number 3, it impacts your physical health. Definitely surprising. And I am realizing that more and more every day. And then finally, some practical steps to release the guilt and embrace the peace. It includes 1, acknowledging and accepting responsibility. 2, challenging those negative beliefs and creating positive affirmations and or using the A Life framework. And then number 3 is engaging in self-healing practices like journaling, meditation, and therapy, and a life. All right. Again, if you have found value here, please let me know. Please share this with anyone that you thought this would be helpful for. I've had a great time chatting with you about this. As you know, I'm really passionate about this subject. It means a lot to me because I know it's holding people back from pursuing their dreams and their goals. And I don't want those to go to the grave with you. I want you to chase them. I want you to go after them and make a difference in this world. I will see you guys next week. Have an amazing rest of your night. Take care. If you're joining me for the free masterclass that's happening in about an hour, I'll see you in an hour.